What in colonization is going on, everyone? It's Nick from Breaking the Clutch. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I apologize. We have not done any leader breakdown videos in a few weeks, and we've got wrapped up in other things, other projects we were trying to work on in the background, and I plan on finishing this series within the month of June, so be ready. There's going to be quite a few leaders popping up. If you want to see one in particular before another one, leave that down below, but first we're going to start with Colony. First, we're going to go ahead and start off with leader points that are unique to Colony, so go ahead and get your pen and paper out. We've got a whole bunch of stuff to cover with Colony because he has a ton of unique abilities. First, we're going to start off with Skitterers. Obviously, this is one of Colony's staple units, and it goes along with a lot of the strategies that Colony uses, and that will be at the very end of the video, showcasing some of the strategies that Skitterers can be utilized within Colony's meta. But we're going to jump into Living Barrier before we get into that. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a little bit of the distance that the barrier can take, and also how many barrier blocks there are. This is kind of, I guess if you're into this kind of information, it's good for you, but it's not really too big of a deal. We've got 9 individual barriers right there with no shield, and that's Living Barrier number 1. And Living Barrier number 2 is actually going to have some shields on it, just a little bit, and it's going to have 13 individual barriers. Feel free to use that as you please, and also you don't have to use all of them at once. You can simply just block off a certain area based on the what you need within that game. Also, kind of pay attention to your barrier because it gives the enemy a lot of leader points, or a lot of boosts to that leader point. So you got to be very careful when you drop this thing because it will help the enemy if you're not very careful. Let's jump right into vehicle symbiots here, level 1. Now there isn't a very big area of effect. There's not a lot of units don't get affected by this, at least with level 1. I think you can get 3, but you'll see right here I struggled just to get 2. And maybe with choppers you can't because choppers don't like to sit next to each other for some reason, but we're going to go ahead and test a 2-on-2 with those choppers and vehicle symbiote. And of course, vehicle symbiote does last the entire time that those vehicles are alive. So if you can, get a couple engineers in that mix and keep those guys alive. It'll help them get veterancy much quicker because they're staying alive and they're doing a lot more damage. So you can see how this can play an effect. And of course, vehicle symbiote only affects vehicles. So keep that in mind as you run your Colony vehicle symbiote strategies. Now it's pretty clear to see that with Vehicle Symbiote in level 1, it's not too much of an advantage here, but it does give you the slight advantage when you're going up against the same units as yourself. So in the early game of a chopper rush that we've been seeing so much in this current meta of Season 3, maybe this gives you a slight edge. I don't know if you want to use Vehicle Symbiote level 1, but it is available for you guys if you do need it as Colony, especially with these, again, with these chopper rushes. It might give you the slight edge. Especially if you don't have as many units as the opponent. Alright, the next one, we might be able to squeeze 3, maybe 4 with this one, but we're going to go ahead and get 3, I believe, with it. Now, of course, with Symbiote upgraded to the 2nd, we will have just a slight advantage again over just normal chopper units. You'll make it out with, I think, 1 and maybe a quarter shield or a quarter health with the 2nd chopper. One's definitely going to die in this engagement. Again, with Colony, we saw in one of our 1v1 tournaments, someone went symbiotes. I think it was Udpu. I don't really care for it, but I can see where it's useful in certain scenarios when you're going up against a person maybe who has veterancy on his vehicles or just outnumbers you in vehicles. It can become useful in that situation, but I prefer to utilize my leader points in other ways. Moving on to the 3rd upgrade for Vehicle Symbiote, we're going to get a bigger scope with the amount of units we can bring in. If area effect is going to be much greater, I think we get 8 units within this engagement right here that are able to get infected by these worms, and we're going to have a very big advantage here. Now notice, I want to point this out. We both have level 3 choppers at this point. So if you're in your gameplay and you've got you're doing a chopper rush and you get to, for whatever reason, vehicle symbiote 3 and you're going choppers still at that point, know that you're probably not going to kill as quickly as these choppers. And of course there's no shrapnel round with these guys as well. Yeah, there is a couple in the very back that aren't getting their shots in. We do try to adjust that a little bit later, but you get the point. Choppers are absolutely going to crush other choppers when they have vehicle symbiote level 3. With I can see it's more useful with wraiths in the late game and reavers as well. Locusts, yeah, I guess locusts as well, but otherwise I wouldn't see you using vehicle symbiote with choppers at all. But I guess that's up to each of you guys to determine what's best for your current strategy in any given game. Moving along to Engineer Swarm 1. Now I've got, again, going back to the living barrier thing, I've got a bit of information for you with Engineer Swarm. I don't know if it's particularly useful to you, but it's there if you want it. With level 1, you get 8 engineers, and it lasts for about 20 seconds. So at any given time, you can have 8 units being healed. Keep that in mind whenever you have a little bit bigger of armies. And the engineers, of course, do move around, so they heal just a little bit every once in a while, and then they move to the next unit. It just depends on how many units you have in your composition. So just keep that in mind when dropping in Engineer Swarm 1. It doesn't have that great of a scope either, so Engineer 2 is just slightly better with 11 engineers, and it lasts for about 26-27 seconds, somewhere within that range. And of course, I try to freeze frame this and count as best I could. It's a little difficult to see all those engineers in there. I believe it's about 11. And unfortunately, for some reason, I'm not quite sure why this is, but level 3, and we can of course go ahead and check this in the, if you see something different in the comments, please let me know. But Engineer Swarm 3 is going to have 12 engineers, and it's going to last for about 32 seconds, and you'll see it right here. And it's a bit strange that they would only increase it by 1. Of course, my eyes could be deceiving me, but I gave this several counts. If you see something different than I saw, please let me know in the comments. Of course, we are always checking that and always responding to as many comments as we possibly can. And again, it lasts for about 32-34 seconds, somewhere within that range. And I guess in the very late game, if you get to it, Engineer Swarm 3 is good, but I would prefer to stick with level 2, just because you're only getting 1 more engineer and you're only getting it for 7 more seconds. I would prefer to use that upgrade for something else at that point, with only just 1 extra unit. Now we're going to go ahead and test out Hunter's Brand, which is extremely powerful. It's one of the best leader points that you can possibly use in this game. It freezes enemy units as well. It's very difficult for them to get out of that once the beam hits the ground. And you'll see that's level 3 choppers right there taking that damage. And I think it got 4 or 5 one-shot within there and killed one of them. So you can see that how devastating that can be, especially in the early game when there aren't choppers that are upgraded. So you'll see right here we've also got level 2 with the Hunter's Brand, and I'm going to try to drag out as many of Gabe's units as I possibly can, so that way we can see the full effect of this. And look at the scope on that one. It takes in a bunch of units, and again, just absolutely devastating. Once Hunter's Brand hits the ground, you really can't avoid it. It's one of the more distinct leader powers in the game, and it's very difficult to maneuver against it. Here we go with level 3. It's absolutely devastating, and especially if you have a massive army of your own, you'll be able to come in and sweep off a lot of those units. Obviously, I was just trying to give you an example right there. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. We've got Colony Drop, and this one's particularly interesting for me because it drops in, I guess, 2 Goliaths at the cost of 500 resources and 175 power, and they both have 2-star. Now, what would happen if you decided to make 2 Goliaths on your own? It would cost you 440 resources and 260 power. So more power, less resources, and non-veterancy. So keep that in mind when you decide, or if you decide to purchase it. I think it's a better deal to go ahead and get that double drop, and it also pays off when you rush as well, and you can drop in those veteran Goliaths. They do a lot of damage against vehicles and infantry, so keep that in mind, and buildings as well. Now we've got Devastating Host, which drops in 31 units. It costs 1,850 resources, and then 750 power. It drops in a Hunter level 3, drops in 2 of those. It drops in 1 Locust level 2, 1 Reaver level 2, and 2 Wraiths level 2. Now what happens if you try to purchase that on your own? With those same purchases, your Hunter, your Locust, your Reaver, and your Wraith at the same cost, it will cost you 2,895 and 895 power, so it will cost over 1,000 more resources and about 150 more power, and you wouldn't have any sort of veterancy on them. Devastating Host is obviously the way to go in that situation. And now we're moving on to Combat Repair, which is by far one of my favorite leader abilities. I'm not sure if any of the UNSC have it, because I have not played too much as the UNSC lately, so I can't think about that, or I haven't thought about that, but Combat Repair with Colony is absolutely amazing. You can see right now within these engagements, if you micro well and you take your units who are getting hurt, push them to the back, you'll see that even right here, they are starting to heal within this engagement, and it's absolutely crucial. Helps a lot within these engagements, so you don't have to call in as many engineers as you need, or you would need within a regular scenario. Moving on to the hero unit, we've got Hunter's Captain, I think is what it's called. And there's several upgrades for Hunter's Captain. The first one's going to go ahead and be Taunt. Now, the thing with the Hunter's Captain is, okay, so Hunter's Captain, when they have vehicles, you taunt them, they attack you, and you can attack the vehicles that are being taunted. Okay, it's not too effective, at least in my personal opinion. I've struggled to see how effective or how useful this one can be. But if you go ahead and upgrade it again, you will get a Siphon ability, and it increases the range and damage. You'll go ahead and see this little bit play out right here. And the last one just improves the taunt. Again, I really don't care for the Hunter's Captain. I can see where it's useful. Maybe if you throw him inside of a large army composition. Obviously, I'm just putting him against a bunch of infantry and one chopper, so it's not the greatest scenario. But if you go ahead and throw him in a garrison like the one to the right, or have him in a large army composition, Hunter's Captain can be useful. Again, I don't know at what point in the game you would get to the point where you want to produce a Hunter's Captain. I'd assume the very late game, because there would be a lot better things to spend your resources on, especially to upgrade him to the point where he's actually viable. I would prefer getting reinforcements, or I would prefer getting shorter research time. So I guess it's just preference, and it also depends on in-game scenarios. But now we're going to go ahead and switch gears and look at some of the strategies that Colony, I think, that complements Colony. And these videos will be brought to you by Pat, who has made these videos on our channel before. I will go ahead and link them in the comments. They'll be pinned down below. And let's go ahead and take a look at the Goliath Skitterer combo, again brought to you by Pat.
So right now, the enemy already knows just from a simple chopper scout that I'm doing this. So what he can do is just kind of prepare accordingly, throw some turrets up. However, Goliaths do absolutely melt turrets being building killers. With the skitterers on the back as well, while your Goliaths are attacking those turrets, the skitterers can generally speaking shoot the back. I've also seen people upgrade their base going double extractor before they do this, getting engineers out and then pushing.
Now the next one we're going to take a look at is the engineer skitterer combination that is super deadly in matchmaking.
Right around the 6-minute mark, I'm going to start moving up. So in this particular scenario, I have control of the game. I'm not being attacked. I'm feeling good. I'm starting to upgrade my air units as well, just to help out the engineers just a little bit more. Now, keep in mind as well, you cannot focus fire units with engineers and skitterers. So what you need to do is just constantly skirt them around the map. Yes, I just said that. Just keep flying them around so they can pick them off from a distance.
And of course, we've already done all of these strategy videos on our channel before, so I won't show the full clips here, but they will be pinned down below. I don't want to waste anyone's time who doesn't want to see those. So again, if you want to see those strategies specifically, look in the comments below. They'll be pinned. Feel free to check them out. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy this Colony leader breakdown. If there is another leader you want to see next, please let me know down below in the comments, and let me know, did I miss anything with Colony? Colony's a fantastic character, and there's a whole bunch to observe and acknowledge with Colony. So I hope I got it all. If not, please help me out. Leave some comments down below, and let's go ahead and make sure that we've got everything covered for Colony. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you tomorrow.